Every player for any card game has had the experience of sitting down to play and watching as their opponent plays one of the most frustrating and stupid cards that has ever been printed. Some of these stop you from playing the game, some of them are just minor inconveniences that change how you're allowed to play the game, and all of them are just annoying to play against. I'm going to break down some of the most annoying cards ever printed across multiple card games. But let's face it, there are a lot of card games out there, and some card designers feel it is their personal job and moral obligation to create these annoying ass cards, so I can't touch on all of them in this video. If you think I missed a major one or have a card that you find really annoying to play against, let me know in the comments down below, but here is my list. Pokemon has a really weird habit of printing a lot of cards with floodgates on them. Floodgates mean blanket effects that prevent people from playing certain cards. Currently, the most annoying floodgate in the game, which has been dominating the metagame, has been the unholy plant that is Budew. Budew is a basic grass Pokemon with a free retreat and free attack, Itchy Pollen. Itchy Pollen prevents your opponent from using item cards at all on their turn. Considering so many decks need item cards to set up, it's a core mechanic of the game, and any deck using Stage 2 Pokemon want to use Rare Candy to evolve into their big Pokemon. This little guy is the embodiment of evil. Last format, a lot of Stage 2 decks like Charizard would skip playing Stage 1 Pokemon entirely and just max out on Rare Candies and the basic Pokemon. But with Budew decks, they've been forced to change and play these Stage 1 Pokemon. I have no idea why this card was made. It doesn't create fun and interactive games, it slows the game down, but not really in any meaningful way or fun way. It just seems like a weird card for the Pokemon Company to make, especially in recent years. Pokemon's been on a roll with fun format after fun format after fun format since the Scarlet and Violet era. Not all of them, mind you, but they've had a lot of really good formats. But what's worse is they're making another one of these guys. In Black Bolt and White Flare, they're printing Jellicent, a Stage 1 EX Pokemon whose ability Curse of the Sea says that you cannot play any item cards from your hand or attach Pokemon tool cards. This is already an auto-include in new Gardevoir decks, and it's putting up results in the Japanese championships where we saw Gardevoir and Jellicent be a top strategy. It's another annoying floodgate that's even better than Budew, and is going to show up in a lot of decks. Looking back into Pokemon's history, we see this is not something new. We see a lot of other really annoying cards that do similar things as Budew and Jellicent. We have the WotC era Slowking, which forces your opponent to win a coin flip if they want to activate any trainer card from their hand. This ability works from your bench as well, so it doesn't even have to be in the active or do an attack. This card was oppressive in the metagame back in its era, but technically it was never meant to work this way. The original Slowking in Japanese was only able to be used while it was in the active spot, but got mistranslated when it came over to the States. That still makes it just a really annoying card. I'm not sure who at Pokemon first decided to add this design of floodgates into the game, but good God, it was a terrible idea. The Pokemon Company even put this ability on a stadium card in Chaos Gym, making all trainer cards a 50-50 on whether or not they resolve. But even worse, if you lose the coin flip, your opponent gets to use the card instead of you. Now, that's just really bad game design. There's going to be a lot of cards in this video that are floodgates or have similar effects to the aforementioned cards. I really want to know who the hell thought cards that prevent people from playing the game was ever a good idea in the first place. We're going to see this in every single card game mentioned today, and it's just dumb. Finally, before we move on to the next card game, I want to talk about the most heinous and annoying Pokemon card ever printed, Cramorant. I hate this bird so much. Back when Giratina and Lost Box were around, I got bodied game after game after game by this stupid little bird, and his free attack to hit me for 110 damage for no energy, provided there were 4 cards in the Lost Zone. There's nothing innocent about his attack, and its ability was way too cheap. Only being 4 cards in the Lost Zone, you could easily turbo into that. I've had my board decimated by this stupid bird because I couldn't find enough energy in time to deal with it. And I remember vividly, it was not very popular, but one person at locals played 3 Cramorant in their list, and I would out 2, and then the third one would come in, and I would have a really terrible board state, and I'd be so salty. I'm over it now, I promise, I'm over it now. Regardless, he's not that strong. He's not the worst card in the game, but I have a vendetta, a hatred for this terrible, no good, awful little blue bird. Next, moving into Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's already regarded as a game with a million negates and very little interaction between players that ends in 1 to 2 turns. a reputation that it earned for itself back in the late 2010s, early 2020s with the introduction of Link monsters. Now, the game has healed from this era, and it's no longer about building these big, unbreakable boards, but instead having layered interaction where you actually interact with your opponent throughout the entire game, which I think has done a really, really good job of that. Despite this, there are still some really stupid cards that exist in the game. Thankfully, most of them have been banned, but some still persist. The first of these is the most iconic Mystic Mine, War Crimes as a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It punishes your opponent for playing the game. Mystic Mine says if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. If you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. Once per turn, during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, destroy this card. This card has seen all kinds of play in the game. It was a part of burn and Exodia strategies that stalled your opponent out of the game, but it also played in the main and sideboard for countless other decks. Mystic Mine is a great going second card. If your opponent establishes a big board, you play Mystic Mine. If they can't remove it immediately, you have a few turns to pick apart their board and draw interaction into their established board. It was a staple in the Sky Striker deck, which only has one monster on board 99% of the time, and could attack directly with Hayate to slowly pick at your opponent and win the game across a couple of turns. In fact, some Sky Striker decks were designed around Mystic Mine, maxing out on cards to search it and play it from the deck. Mystic Mine also led to one of the most laughable and memified tweets from a pro player about being prepared for Mystic Mine, which essentially just means that you should draw the out to the card, and you're bad if you don't. Mystic Mine is universally hated by the community for good reason. Next we have Imperial Order, which turns off all spell cards in the game. This was legal in the early 2020s for some unknown reason. It came back after it got errated and it changed how much life points you had to pay, but it was still incredibly broken and not balanced whatsoever. It was basically an auto-win button against nearly every deck if you drew it going first. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become a spell and monster focused game, unless you're playing specifically a trap focused deck like Labyrinth or Eldritch. Most of your deck is going to be brown and blue cards, which is why Imperial Order is so oppressive. I'm baffled it existed for as long as it did. There weren't any strategies built around it, but part of what made it frustrating was that pretty much every single deck had it in the main or side deck, and like Mystic Mine, you had to draw the out. What really sucked about Order is that nearly all the good spell trap removal in the game is on spell cards. So you had to draw a quick play spell card that could remove a trap card in the field in your opening hand to play before your opponent is either going to activate Imperial Order, or technically you have to wait for them to activate it and then play the spell, otherwise they'll chain it and negate it, blah blah blah. And if you didn't do that, you're completely locked out of the game. The final card I want to talk about for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Inspector Border. This card says, cannot be normal or special summoned if you control a monster. Neither player can activate monster effects unless the number of monster effects that player has previously activated that turn is less than the number of monster card types currently on the field: Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum, and Link. If an effect's activation was negated, it still counts towards a total for that turn. Only count effects that were activated while this monster is face up on the field. That's a lot. And that's really confusing to just basically say that you can only activate so many monster effects for how many card types there are on field. It's annoying to read, it's unintuitive. A lot of the times as a new player, they'll play against it not understanding what it does, and get frustrated that they can't play the game because of this stupid 2000 attack 4-star monster. You don't get any effects of this card on the board unless you draw into specific removal or card negation. You can't use any of your monster effects. And usually this card is backed up with a litany of trap cards to protect him and other floodgates to just kind of uphold him. He's always the center of a BS strategy that is not trying to play the game, but sit there and annoy the opponent and try to get a cheesy win because no one else can play. Unlike the other two cards, it's not meta. It's never seen like super competitive success, but it's just annoying to run into. You'll go to locals, there'll be that one guy playing the deck, you'll play against them, and you'll never want to see them ever again. If you are bringing this deck to locals, please stop. Go to therapy, discuss whatever trauma happened to you and why you feel the need to take it out on others. Moving into Magic next. Disclaimer before we get too far into it, this is for a Commander perspective. I've played other formats like Pioneer and a little bit of Standard, but not enough to know which cards plague the format all that much, and especially with how often they change. I do play a lot of Commander though, and these are the cards that have annoyed me the most while playing against them. Not including any Commander for this, but independently strong cards which have shown up in a lot of games for me. First off, we have Rhystic Study. This card says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1 colorless mana. That seems simple enough, but in a game of Commander with 4 players, if your opponent plays this on their 3rd turn, they'll get anywhere from 3 to 6 cards between every single turn cycle, depending on how many cards are being played and who's willing to pay the mana. Card draw is insanely strong in Magic, and with it being only 3 cost, it is so easy to get out in the early game when removal spells are few and far between. Best case scenario, someone has removal for it early on before one person spirals out of control with card advantage. On a side note, if you haven't played against this card, you don't understand how annoying hearing "do you pay 1 for Rhystic Study" every single time anyone plays a card. For that reason alone, I just hate it. It's annoying to play into, it gives you so much card advantage, and I don't want to have to pay taxes in the middle of my card game so my opponents don't get card draw. Next is maybe the most vile card I've ever had to play against. Genuinely, I feel so bad whenever I see anyone playing this on the table, and that is Contamination. Contamination says during your upkeep, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice Contamination. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, it produces 1 black mana instead of its normal type and amount. This turns off any deck that is not playing black in it. It's incredibly annoying, it creates boring and unfun games. It turns into everyone just sitting there and staring down the player who has Contamination, if there's no other black source on the table, or it's going to be a game only between the people that have black lands and black spells to play. Either way, it's just a boring waiting game for the other players at the table, and especially if no one else has any black sources or black spells to play, it's just a waiting game. You're either going to try to draw your colorless out to it, or hope that your opponent can out it themselves. More often than not, this is an insta-scoop card in which everyone's going to just pick up their cards and move on to the next game, because they want to sit around for 15-20 turns waiting for someone to draw the out, or waiting for their opponent to just win the game. Other cards that mess with mana sources like this, like maybe Armageddon, are also really annoying. I'd say Armageddon is less bad because it sets the entire table back. It doesn't give one person with one color all the advantage, but Armageddon removing all the lands is just really annoying to see come down, especially if one person has a bunch of mana rocks that they can continue playing the game with. Anytime mana and land are being messed with, I'm just severely annoyed. Speaking of that, it leads right into our next card, Winter Orb. Winter Orb says as long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap steps. If you play Winter Orb, I sincerely want to talk to you. How is this fun for you? No one gets to play the game unless you're using an artifact-only deck, but then you are just sitting there playing with yourself while nothing else is happening. I genuinely feel there's a certain minority of card players who really just want to play Solitaire while holding a captive audience at gunpoint, forcing them to watch them play Solitaire. Winter Orb is worse than Contamination in my opinion, because I've heard so many people try to justify it to me when they play it. Oh, well, you can just draw the out for it soon, or it just slows the game down because all your decks are so strong. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Winter Orb is not fun. If you want to play lower bracket, tell the table before the game starts. I want to sit there untapping 1 land for 8 turns, searching for my removal spells. Magic may have the most amount of uniquely annoying cards, so many in fact I didn't have time to include them all. They have turn skips, dump your hands, resurrection cards, so if I missed whatever you think is the most annoying Magic card, let me know down in the comments below. The final card game of today is going to be One Piece, a relatively new contender, especially compared to the aforementioned Big 3, but they've already started printing a lot of dumb, annoying cards in this short 3-year tenure. One of the craziest cards they've printed has been Gecko Moria, this 8-cost black character, which on play lets you choose up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less and 1 character with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. You play one of them as active and the other as rested. This immediate +2 was strong enough, but you couple it with the 4-cost blocker Rebecca, things got even crazier. Rebecca on play lets you add any card with cost 3 to 7 from your trash to your hand, then play any 3-cost or lower card from your hand rested on the field. Essentially, for 8 Dawn, you go from having no board state at all to having 4 characters with a blocker and a solid attacker with Gecko Moria, not to mention 2 other cards that can provide more advantage. Usually you could get things back like Spandam, which will have an on-play effect to get more cards into your hand and just more advantage. Gecko Moria is so frustrating to play against because it could build an entire board out of nothing. You'd expend all of your resources trying to get rid of your opponent's board they built off of Gecko Moria, and if they have another one, they can just rebuild their entire board on the crackback. I swear, running into back-to-back Moria had me this close to crashing out of my opponents. Moria's banned now and for really good reason, but the following cards are totally illegal and so annoying. The next one is a card dominating the metagame in multiple different decks, and that is Gum Gum Giant. This card reads like a custom card. Bandai could not push a card harder than this one. Gum Gum Giant is a 1-cost purple event that makes you return 2 Dawn to your Dawn deck. It is a counter to boost your leader or character by 4,000, then trash a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. It is essentially a 2,000 counter that turns another card into your hand into a 2,000 counter and then replaces itself by drawing 2 cards. The mind games with this card is insane as well. Any purple Straw Hat deck will leave 1 Dawn up to threaten Gum Gum Giant even when they have no intention of activating it. It forces the opponent to play around it all the time. It is currently being played in Green Purple Luffy, Blue Purple Luffy, Black Purple Luffy, and Purple Luffy. And heck, if Red Purple Luffy makes it back to the metagame, we might see it again. We're really in the Luffy metagame right now, it's crazy. Here's a pick of the top 16 at the Florida Regional. 11 of the top 16 decks are all purple Luffy variants. Also, nowhere on this card does it say once per turn. There's nothing stopping your opponent from activating it multiple times in one turn, or even drawing into more copies of it off of the one activation of Gum Gum Giant. This card saves purple Luffy decks so much of the time, guaranteeing they don't take life cards, cycling their hand to find answers they need in that moment. Overall, a really annoying card to see, and I cannot wait for it to get banned or limited. Lastly, I want to talk about leaders. One Piece has made some annoying leaders already. The overtuned Sakazuchi leader. Hell, I even think that Vegapunk and Enel are pretty annoying with their playstyle. But by far the most annoying leader in One Piece has to be Blackbeard. There are definitely stronger leaders out there right now. He's fallen out of the metagame a little bit, but man do I hate this guy. His ability is that by discarding a card, you turn off all of your opponent's on-play abilities. He's a walking floodgate. One Piece has done a great job of not printing floodgates in the game all that often. The only other floodgate that really comes to mind is the 7-cost buggy promo that doesn't let 3 or 4-cost cards attack. It's a pretty tame floodgate, all things considered. No on-play effects is infuriating when it impacts so many cards. Purple Luffy, for example, dies so hard into this deck, making nearly half the deck vanilla monsters. I remember the first time I played against it, my opponent discarded a card on my second turn. I looked at my hand, looked at my board, and spent the rest of the game swinging big vanilla guys into Blackbeard, and I lost. Now you can overcome the leader by continuously swinging into him and trying to make them discard cards and give up card advantage, but if they ever drop the 10-cost blocker Teach, then it becomes nearly impossible to remove any cards out of their hand, so they can't activate their ability. He may not be the strongest leader, but oh my god is he so annoying to play against. Floodgates are bad card design for any card game, and I really hope Bandai goes in a very different direction for future card design. I swear there are just some card game designers out there who are trying to see what effects they can slip into card game sets without anybody noticing. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you give it a like, comment, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and have a great day.